This is the Vikstrand, and welcome to my first video from the Vacation Edition video, Sweden edition. Let's see if you can wrap your little heads around this one, shall we? In the movie Zodiac, David Fincher, played by Mark Ruffalo, he goes to the movies and he sees the movie Dirty Harry. This means that a character goes and see a movie that is based on an actual killing which he took part in, and is played by a character, Clint Eastwood, that is based on him. And not only is this movie based on the Zodiac killers which, you know, inspired Dirty Harry, but David's character was also a consultant in the Zodiac killing movies, and he was also had a cameo in it. So a character which is based on another character goes in a movie to see another movie with that character in it. Also, the real David has a cameo in this one somewhere. I can't remember where, but so that means that an actual cop has a cameo in a movie in which his so a real cop has a cameo in a movie where a character playing his character, where a actor playing his character goes to a cinema to see a character that is based on the actual cop, is shown in a movie that took inspiration from the case that made that cop sort of famous. Whoa, heavy, dude. Well, enough about that nonsense. Let's talk about Zodiac. Also, this is the review of the director's cut version. So when this movie opened in 2007, I personally wasn't aware of what the Zodiac killer was. I didn't know that much about it. And when I saw it, I was expecting, you know, a serial killing 101. Brilliant cop, slightly obsessed, chasing, you know, super smart, elusive serial killer. But no, this is not the case in this case, because this movie functions on a totally different level. This is not a obsessive cop chasing brilliant mastermind serial killer. This is cartoonist chasing slightly amateuric but lucky serial killer or shadow. The thing is that the Zodiac killer is such an elusive character that you don't really know whether or not he stopped. Some other dude just kept killing and, you know, copycatting him and stuff like that. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. So a couple of brutal murders happens in the San Francisco area, and a code is sent to the San Francisco Chronicles with the demand that if they do not print it, he will kill someone else. Cartoonist, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, thinks that he may be able to solve this code and, you know, try to understand it. This becomes a very important part of his life. He needs to know who the Zodiac killer was. He needs to find this guy. He doesn't even know really why. A couple of more murders occurs, and the public is on an all high alert. We follow the events that took place in the late 60s, early 70s through the eyes of basically three people. The cartoonist, Gray Smith, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, as I mentioned. David Fincher, the cop, played by Mark Ruffalo, and the star reporter of the San Francisco Chronicle, played by Robert Downey Jr., but mostly in the first half of this movie. Paul Avery becomes a slightly less important character as our story progresses. Why does this movie work? this is an odd case that do happen to me sometimes. It is, I love this movie for what it is not for what it is. This is, as I said, this is not your traditional serial killer movie. This is almost like a historical drama. David Fincher's eye for details are so incredible that all these attacks and killings feels almost like paintings and autopsies of sequences. They are absolutely amazing, and the movie is not fast-paced at all. It is a rather slow-moving thing, but it just is so fascinating, and it always, you know, gets you informed what's happening. And this is also a case of how police detectives are done, I suppose. Slow, meticulously working, you know, digging in different archives and stuff like that. The movie doesn't rely on tension or, you know, psychological battles and stuff like that. It more relies on deducting evidences and, you know, puzzling together everything to come up with a conclusion, which may or may not even be there. Like strings on a pearl, we have all these great side characters that we don't know. Are they in for the long run? Are they gonna pop up later? Are they never gonna pop up again just after a couple of minutes of screen time? We don't know, and that adds to the sense of realism in this movie. Of course, I don't know how close this one is to the actual story of the Zodiac killer, but it feels that it is the real deal. On the David Fincher ranking system, it is on the lower end actually. It is better than Panic Room and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, but it cannot match the awesomeness of, let's say, the Game 7, Fight Club and Gone Girl just on the top of my head. But it doesn't matter because, as you know, David Fincher has one of the best, you know, low grades of all time. He's an absolutely fantastic director. He brings all the best thing out of his shots. The slow moving, very mellow pacing that we have works to the movie's advantage because you feel like you are catching along. And as I said, this movie is more about obsession because Jake Gyllenhaal's entire life becomes the Zodiac killer. He just keeps on, you know, trying to find who this guy was, and he can't stop. Like the brilliant tagline to this movie is, you can lose your life to a killer in more than one way. To tell you the truth, the first time I saw this movie I was disappointed. I didn't like it at all. But when I saw the movie again, then I discovered what it was that was missing. It was just simply expectation. If you have seen this movie once and didn't like it, you owe it to yourself to do a rewatch. This movie was bumped up almost 15 points from the first time I saw it to the second time I saw it. And when I saw the director's cut, it bumped up one more point. It's weird that when you know the ending to a movie, it actually benefits how you look at it the second time. But I think it happens, you know, once or twice. This does not have the conclusion nor the ending that you expect. It may leave some people disappointed, including myself. But here's the thing. When I saw it the second time, when I knew it was coming, I could more appreciate the story, and I could really immerse myself in the movie more. And the very, very interesting story about obsession, and the interesting story about how people sort of just, you know, forgot that the Zodiac even existed, and it just became a slightly obscure pop culture phenomenon, was very fascinating. And you really get that you are in the time period. And if you have not seen the Zodiac, you go and watch it with an open mind and may see it one more time, you know, a month or two later if you didn't like it. A word of warning, and heed my words. Do not expect a fast-paced cop-chasing serial killer movie. Remember, this movie is more than 2.5 hours long, and oh, motorboat. Remember, this movie is 2.5 hours long and then some. So if you have problems with long movies, this might be a thing you should maybe sit out, maybe. A note about the director's cut. The director's cut adds about 5 minutes to this movie, and it doesn't add that much, but it adds more about the things that made the movie great. That is, you know, more information, more evidence and stuff like that. So there you go. Despite being a 160 plus minute movie, this one is fantastic. This movie has great characters, it has great acting, it has great direction, it's great writing, it has a great look. David Fincher pulls almost all the tricks out of his bag to make this movie memorable. Despite being a weaker second half, this is one of the great underrated movies of the mid-2000s. It gets a solid 85. Man, it's quiet outside today. We'll see where we pop up next time. This is the Wikstrand, signing out. Lite tidigare, Jake Gyllenhaal hadn't evolved at this point to the absolute monster of an actor. He would be cough, Nightcrawler, cough. But in my opinion, this was the movie where I discovered how great he actually could be.